A very warm welcome to all of you out there. We have very enabled women leaders out here. I think a few questions are for the curiosity minds out there. We have only women, so is it only women panel discussion? Definitely not. This is a very general topic that I and you go through every day in every organization that we work. So we are looking more for inclusive and being diverse. But yeah, it is a power packed group of women out here to listen to them as to what they think and what is their experience with this topic in the industry right now. Parinita, are you here?
I am here, but I'm very sorry. I'm not sure why my video is not working.
Can you try removing the background? We can see your background actually.
Yeah, I've tried doing that, but I don't want to kind of, stop it from going ahead. So please continue. I will still speak.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Parinita. Thanks for being understanding. To go ahead, hi all. So for the panel discussion, I am Deepthi, being a moderator. So I am basically a quality enthusiast, but right now working for the project management quality. So we work in getting the qualified, processes to and accelerate the projects. With me, I have many more people here, all ladies, very enabled one. Hi, Ritu. Ritu is the director of Ubisoft. She has embraced her new role with a lot of grace. I think she's working in the pioneer gaming section. We would love to hear you more, Ritu. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Deepthi, and very warm welcome to all the ATA GTR crowd. It's a delight to be a part of this panel discussion. About me, I'm a technology enthusiast, and as Deepthi said, I've recently started with Ubisoft as the India head of quality. It is altogether a different space for me in gaming. On personal front, I'm spouse to a supportive partner and mother to two beautiful teenagers. And today's topic is something that is very close to my heart. I feel at times, we all have blinders. We see only things from our own perspective. And it's not about being good, better, worse, but being different. And when we come together with a common purpose, our view broadens and we are able to recognize things that, we could have never seen on our own. And that's why I very strongly feel diversity matters. It brings a perspective to the table. And most important than that is how we are able to make that diverse workforce feel belonging and inclusive onto the table is something we need to be thinking more around it. That I look forward to, hear more questions from the audience and have a very amazing discussion with my fellow panelists.
Thanks, Ritu. Thank you for that. We will definitely indulge in the topic more after we have all the panel on board. We also have Parinita, a VP in leading Indian quality engineering and testing practices, Capgemini India. She's responsible for designing and delivering innovation-led solutions to global clients. She believes in quality to be built in and not just tested. Parinita, welcome, and we would love to hear you on those grounds.
Well, thank you very much. And I really apologize. I really don't know what's going wrong. Maybe my laptop does need a restart. But again, a very warm afternoon to all of you. And this is a great platform. The first time I'm speaking on this platform, so very, very proud to be here. I think this subject, as Ritu said earlier, is close to all of us. Maybe being the diversity candidate, it anyways goes hand in hand. But I personally have been engaged on this subject in mid 2000s, and since then I have been very, very motivated and invested in this particular subject. And in fact, today morning when I was talking to a couple of my friends, and they were saying, talk about men as well, and I was like, women is not complete without men. So it's not about gender diversity alone, but I think the way the whole society has shaped up, and the equal participation from the different genders, the different diverse for workforce is making a difference. Rick spoke before us, and I think he's a great guy. I've known him for last 3 years now. Quality engineering and testing is very, very close to my heart. I've spent like 27 years in that. Long
15 मिनिटात येत आहे.
so great to be part of this discussion, and we will speak more as we move forward.
Thanks, Parinita. Moving on to Seema. Seema is the director of QA at Hoodie. Her focus is on leadership, establishing sustainable processes for a high performance team. She is also a certified agile coach. She's here to uplift the human side of testing. Very excited to know that part of it. So welcome, Seema.
Thank you so much, Deepthi, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. Very exciting topic to be talking about. I'm the director of QA at Huddle, and working in testing, and a topic that's dear to my heart, and I've been working here for 17, 18 years now. Part of it is building teams and transforming the way we work. And I think that's the most interesting part for me, working with teams and working with people. And with that experience, I hope to bring in some interesting discussion here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Seema. Next, we have Shuchita. She leads the global programs and India DEI head for ZF Friedrich-Schaffen Group. She believes in paid forward philosophy. She's a mentor for many aspiring career people, a believer in inclusion and psychological safety as a drive for culture. We're very happy to have you, Shuchita, and we would want to know more about your beliefs across the panel discussion. You're on mute, Shuchita.
Thank you very much for including me in this panel. I have been a DNI evangelist, ally for a very long time. And being on this panel is really an honor and a privilege, especially with my esteemed co-panelists from different organizations. I look forward to hearing their views and lived experiences on diversity, equity, inclusion. We will talk a little bit more about that. And, as a part of what I do, I lead, I lead DNI programs across different countries with the ZF Friedrich-Schaffen Group, as well as head, as well as apart from being the India head for DNI. So thank you very much for inviting me here, and I look forward to a very engaging discussion.
Thank you, Shuchita. Moving ahead, we have Shubha with us. Shubha leads the Connected Privileges of Engineering Division at Bosch. She's responsible for building and sustainability of IoT. She's basically a problem solver and very passionate about conceptualizing and implementing to build teams. A very warm welcome to you, Shubha, and we are very happy to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Deepthi. Hello, everyone. Just a very hardcore engineer. I am very passionate about technology. So, in this panel discussion, looking forward to do a lot of, talks, on growing high with the technology, with the inclusion and diversity.
Thank you. Thank you. Along with me, I have Harpreet today, who will be a co-moderator. Harpreet is a performance test architect at Capgemini. She also is very keen on implementing performance test frameworks for accelerating the product delivery. Very happy to have you with me here, Harpreet. She's also a part of...
Thank you, Deepthi. Thank you, Deepthi. My name is Harpreet, and I have around 16 years of experience completely into performance testing. And I have provided end-to-end solution for diverse client and across the globe. And I have been active member for ATA events, at times as speaker, at times as volunteer, moderator, and jury member for Blogathon. So this is what excites me. And thanks for having me here today. And happy to share stage with wonderful panel out here.
Yeah, indeed. I think we have very diverse panel by itself, so inclusiveness has to be automatically, brought in. Having said that, diversity is the art of thinking independently together, and inclusivity means not just we are allowed to be there, but we are valued. So when smart teams can deliver amazing things, but when it's a diverse and inclusive teams, they can do impossible things. On that note, we just want to know more about how frequent do we really have a problem with this? And is gender really being a problem? Have any of us faced this personally? Uh, Shuchita, I would want to start with you, but just letting the audience know, please feel free to add your questions on the chat. We will pick it up with the panel while we are going with the discussion.
Right. Thank you. So I have an interesting take on this. Inclusion. Yes, there are a lot of issues around inclusion. While we are seeing representation of women across the board in various corporate organizations grow steadily across levels. However, there is still a lot of work to be done, and the gender balance or the gender diversity ratios for the senior levels of management still are, they're still very, very low. And that is really a big concern for all organizations. Essentially, while women might be represented, they are a part of women leadership teams. However, they often do not feel included simply because they are in a minority. So one theory basically says that if we need any diverse or underrepresented group to make itself seen or heard, you need to have a minimum of 30% representation. And unfortunately, that is not the case in most organizations. So while you might have 15 or 20% women at the senior management level, but you will still see that they do not feel included. They do not feel that their voice is heard. And therefore, as far as inclusion is concerned, I still feel there is a lot of work to be done across organizations, not in one or two specific organizations, but across the board. Again, if you break these numbers down further, you will see that when you start looking at the gender diversity in basically roles which have a more direct business impact or high level technical roles, you will again find the gender diversity dropping drastically. While you will find a fairly healthy gender diversity ratio across the board, across levels, management levels, in in what we call enabler functions, like marketing and HR and finance and audits and legal and so on and so forth. But when you start looking at core technical roles, when you look at the business impact roles, it is very rare to come across an organization where you see a healthy gender balance. So to my mind, there is a lot of work to be done because at the end of the day, diversity does, there are studies which have shown that diversity and inclusion in any organization does impact financial performance. How it impacts financial performance and how that is leveraged by various organizations, varies, but there is definitely concrete evidence that it is something which impacts the business performance of any organization just by providing a very holistic, balanced view. When it comes to anything, whether it is designing the products or whether it is designing your marketing strategies for those products, whether it is providing services to your various customers and so on.
Great, Suchita. Very nice, inputs shared. Anybody else? Any other takers for the question?
So I can sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So I think I'll go with what Chitra is saying, right? It is, mainly, I think nowadays things have changed. There's a lot of openness and, to include, different genders, the inclusion, they are encouraging it. I see the challenge more on, where, as she said, the women in the IT, especially in the IT and the business and the business development part, I don't see them coming front and taking that risk and taking those career paths. So that is something I still see as a challenge, which we'll have to overcome, and understand how we will mentor, how we will bring them, and how we will bring them on the board and make it more, where the ratio really increases to what we are seeing now. I think the challenge is that we ourselves come out and actually take that risk and be there, because as she said, the Gartner report itself says that 25% you see a profitability increase when you have diverse people in the group, in the management, and in everything, in the project and everything that you are executing. Very important that we push that, we make that happen, and then we encourage it for it to go for it.
Thanks, Shubha. Anybody else who would want to share their thoughts on the same?
So I just wanted to add just one single point. I think whatever was said earlier is all true. What I feel when you spoke deeply about if we have got such barriers, I think you see us all on the stage. I'm sure we all had our own challenges, and that's the experience that we are sharing. One thing which I always feel, and I'm sure others would concur, is most of the time we see that for women leadership or women when we are growing in the technology field, with all the HR aspects and other stuff that we do, we get over mentored but very low sponsorship, right? And I think Suchitra, I can see, is kind of nodding, and it's very important. I think that's something that has to change. It is very important. It's important that women get into that right network of powerful executives, and the organizations, I believe, which cultivate the sponsorship relationships are doing far better than the organizations which are not doing that. So I just wanted to highlight that one point, how we can enable that, and obviously some of the leads are already doing that.
Great. I think Harpreet has another question to socialize among the rest of the panel members. Harpreet?
Yeah, I would want to know what changes have we seen after pandemic with respect to diversity, with work from home coming in picture and hybrid model. Earlier, it was work from office. So any panels would like to share thoughts? Can we hear it from Seema or Ritu?
Yeah, I can take this. Yeah, the pandemic, to a certain extent, yeah, as we've heard, seen, lived through it and seen how it affected a lot of us. It didn't affect just women, it affected families, and it whether it's children, men, women, all of us. What it did help for women is that they were able to take up roles which is beyond where they were restricted of places or travel, and those kind of jobs which they weren't able to take up before. Now they're able to take it up because they're working from home. That has become really easy. Yes, there were other challenges as to looking after children, looking after the house, the family, being the wife, the daughter, the mother, different roles that they had to take up. But the positive side of this is we staying at home and working from home, we started setting examples to the next generation. We started setting examples and being role models to our children who hardly saw us. They saw us getting up in the morning, running to work, and coming back in the evening tired and just seeing us for a few hours. But what the pandemic did, or what helped, is they saw what we do. They saw how we work. The ones who didn't have any interest in tech or IT saw that there was something there that they could learn, do. And that interest that got triggered is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it from the positive angle here. And I think it's done good in some sense. That's...
While I...
Thank you, Seema. Anyone who would like to add? Yeah.
Yep. I'll go with that, while I echo all the positive sentiments that Seema has added to it, and I have definitely felt myself. At the same time, what I have realized that when you are working into a different workspace, it becomes, an added pressure as well to show that you are working, or, you will be able to fulfill the commitment in a diverse landscape, or maybe if you are picking up work in altogether different than what you have been working. Talking about my personal experience, if I add up, okay, I joined remotely during the pandemic. though I am competent, I will work it out. It becomes, maybe we are biased in our thoughts that we feel we have to additionally prove ourselves. Maybe it comes, I'm getting back to the gender thing. Either we have this thing in our mind, and then in pandemic came all of the other things when everybody was working out from home, and we have a lot of things getting onto our personal side as well, along with the house chores. In fact, medically and physically, the situation at certain points really got very worst. But while working into industries that demand constant operations to be running all the time, there is tremendous pressure on specifically the females to prove that you qualify for that job, you can sustain over there, though you might be doing really well. All of those things are there, but there is a biased set as well, and that's where I feel that the representation really matters a lot. Because while working with a powerful female bosses during these time frame, I got it. They taught me that you need to have the grit to fight it back. Don't go with all those things, wherein people say that in anything or other things. All those things really matter, and we need to have that supportive group around us who keep on inspiring us.
Great.
Thank you, Ritu. We have Shuchita who has raised hand. Shuchita, would you like to speak on this? Suchita?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a slightly different take on this. There's a McKinsey study that was done somewhere towards the end of the pandemic, maybe about a year and a half ago, along with Leanin.org, which is a nonprofit that used to be, that was run by Sheryl Sandberg, who was, well, of the former COO of Facebook, as many of us would have heard her name. So they did a study and they found that the pandemic set women back almost by 10 to 12 years in their careers, in their growth, in empowerment, anything that women had achieved in the corporate world over the last decade. Now, the reason behind that was, and this was an international phenomenon, this was not something that happened only in India, but the reason behind that was the fact that women were actually shouldering a very disproportionate amount of childcare at home, household chores. The schools were shut. Children were basically doing classes online. And when they were doing classes online, it was the mother who would sit with them and then log in the evening, which would basically make their workday much, much longer. Very few women were lucky enough to have the support of their spouses. Um, during this period. So that is, so a lot of women actually started opting out of the workforce and started, looking at part-time job options or full-time remote working jobs, stuff like that. So it really, really set women back. Now, there is another take to hybrid working. While many of the organizations that we all belong to do support hybrid working, but again, it has, studies have shown that it is mostly the women who opt for working remotely, who opt for those work from home days a lot more than men. So there, and the leadership behaviors have not changed. For leaders, it is always who's in front of you is your go-to person, and that is somewhere where women eventually are going to lose out, because it is the women who would want to opt for these options and therefore be in office much lesser than their male colleagues, and eventually it will impact a career one way or the other. So one thing which many organizations are doing, and a couple of organizations that I have been associated with also did that, is to ensure that when they were working with hybrid or distributed teams, that they continued to be inclusive as far as possible, in the sense that meetings were still done online, irrespective uh, of who was in office and who was working remotely. There were not that many lunches, etc., happening, or team meetings or team outings that were happening unless until everybody could join in and things like that. But these behaviors will take some time to get internalized, to get adopted by various leaders and various organizations, because they've all been used to be working in a particular way. So I think the pandemic really impacted women at work in, in ways which are rather unseen. In India, we are lucky enough to have help. So it works well for many of us because we have help at home. We have a cook coming in who will cook. We have, we have nannies for our kids and all of that. We are not so reliant on daycare and, stuff like that. But that is not the case internationally. That is not the case even in India for women who cannot afford all of this. So we are really the privileged lot, and a very, very small percentage of those women who can afford all of this and therefore enjoy working from home once in a while. And I completely agree to Ritu's point, and I've heard this from many employees. I've worked in HR for many, many years, and I completely agree to Ritu's point that when people joined organizations during the pandemic, they took much longer to get engaged to the organization, to build their support system, to build those work spouses who
Yeah.
became your go-to people to talk to, at work and so on. So I don't really have a very positive outlook, on the way it has impacted women.
Great, Suchita. Actually, thanks for those graphs and reports. But yeah, I think I relate to both the sides. I think where there is a pros, there's always a cons. Probably on a outer big look, there was more of cons. But yeah, we have a lot of questions coming from the audience. So moving to the next part of it, I think with diversity and inclusiveness, something that we have always preached or always wanted to have is equality also. So we have been, I don't think we are still in the ages of like demanding for equality, but we believe and we think that we are equalized. But Marit has a fact to share with us. Just yesterday in Finland, a research was published that an IT women's euro is 88 cents after 2 years of starting off equal. How do you feel about the local efforts in reporting this should progress? Just in addition to that is probably remuneration is somewhere that we feel the pinch, or most of the women out there in the industry feel the pinch. So when the work, the tech, everything is same, what is your outlook on this? Anybody can take this. Any takers?
Yeah, so I can go ahead with that, to be very frank, Deepthi. And again, I would say there are, and these sentiments are right, okay? I'm not gonna deny that they are not right. But over the last at least 7 to 8 years, I can vouch for it, especially coming from different organizations. So I had in last 3 years I've changed, and to earlier questions, I did concur with a little bit with Ritu and others. There is a differentiation, but I think if we compare it, and I'm sure as we are progressing, it is changing. Okay, there are HR policies, there are changes in the way we do the recruitment. It is also something. See, none of the companies today can do it all internally, right? It is public companies. People know about this. There are and I think earlier it was said that there are customers asking for diversity. There are clients or there are investors looking at this. So gone are the days that the disparity is going to be too much. Okay, I would also say, and again, it depends on the level that you are joining in. Obviously, at some point in time, all those your technical skills, etc., matters. But I personally feel as a woman, that is also to do with our negotiation skills. We settle very easily on things. So if you ask me, one of the, and at least for me, myself, when I plot my journey line, I think two things which stand out very clearly in my whole journey line is courage, ability to take those risk decisions, whether it is in terms of picking up a new technology, picking up a new company, changing location, etc. And the second most important is the negotiation. And you have to do negotiation every now and then, and we are good at it. But when it comes to those specific financial discussion, I think we just shy away from it. So if you ask me, there is no benchmark. And one good thing about IT industry is that while there are guardrails, there's no benchmark that only if you are coming from this particular ethnicity, if you're coming from this particular gender, if you're coming from this particular location, you will be only given in this particular scale. So no, it's not that way. It is to do with us. There are changes that are happening in the industry. There is a pay parity check that most of the HRs are bringing in. And I personally also want to highlight one thing, and I'm sure our able HR will agree to that. The diversity and inclusion is just not an HR topic anymore. Yeah, we all in technology, we all who are in this industry are responsible to make it equal. So when we say equal, it's not necessarily equal in terms of the ability, in terms of the pay packages that we get. It's in terms of providing the right opportunity to each one of us. That's what essentially diversity and inclusion for me means. So I just want to say that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely not looking at in diversity and inclusion only in the gender aspect, but these are very common topics which have we sent out a survey and this is what we kind of got for that. So feel free to touch the other bases also. So yeah.
So can I just
Any other takers
can I just expand on why diversity inclusion normally ends up talking about women only. So I really feel, first of all, it's a low-hanging fruit, and there's a larger talent pool that is available right now in engineering colleges. That's one part of it. But since this is largely a conference on testing, I would also like to highlight, bring to the table the talk on neurodiversity. So essentially, neurodiversity really deals with the different types of mental makeup of different individuals, different human beings. And I think there are, in fact, a lot of organizations are now approaching, trying to leverage neurodiversity for very specific kind of roles. There are people with neurological conditions, neurodiverse conditions such as ADHD and, who are on the autism spectrum, etc., who are actually better suited than the so-called neurotypicals to do certain kind of jobs. And I think what I would definitely like to talk about, and if I know there are a lot of people who possibly work in this domain, in the testing domain, and I would request you to go and explore this. Typically, there was a study that was done many years ago by this company called Specialist Turn, which was a Danish company set up by somebody called Thorkelson. And what he really found was that people on the autism spectrum actually made fantastic testers. And to a point that their error rates were really, really low compared to the so-called neurotypicals. So he has set up this company called the Specialist Turn. The English word for that is a specialist, where they employ 75%, where 75% of their employees are actually on the autism spectrum. And they charge a premium for their testing services. They do testing for the best, all the Fortune 50 organizations in the world. They do testing for Microsoft, for Lego, and you name it, very diverse kind of organizations, not just in IT. And their error rates are much, much lower than what it is for neurotypicals. And so yes, in context of why we are here, I think that is something that should be explored, especially in the testing fraternity, because that is how you leverage diversity eventually in the in any organization. You try and make the most of the capabilities of the diverse competencies that people bring to the table, and you make that a competitive edge. So if anybody wants to learn a little more about what Specialist Turn is doing, I'll be very, very happy to share. Specialist Turn has consulted with SAP R&D Center many years back. There's a HPR paper also available on this particular program, where the SAP R&D Center in Bangalore started something called the Autism at Work program, which now obviously has replicated to many more organizations. But they essentially went and hired testers who are on the spectrum, and they have been running this program for many years. And from what I hear, it's very successful even now. So if there's anybody who wants more information, more talk on this, please do reach out. I'll be more than happy to support you, because I also feel that we should expand our talk on diversity beyond gender. Because once you start talking about inclusion, diversity is one thing, but once you start talking about inclusion, you need to be inclusive of all underrepresented represented groups or diverse dimensions. Now,
Right.
whether that is cultures, caste and communities, neurodiversity, visible, invisible disabilities, and so on. I think we really need to expand these conversations, especially in India. But again, not an India phenomena. Internationally, about 80% of any talk on D&I in any organization is on women. So,
Yeah.
again, there's a lot of work to be done there itself, but I don't think we should limit ourselves to that.
Yeah, thanks, Shuchita, for adding the neurological aspect on that. Definitely, we're not talking about the gender bias, right? That's not our topic for the day. We are also trying to touch base the social things that we are looking as a diversity. It's remuneration talk was not about the gender part of it. It was more of the economic conditions that's happening in the the industry as such. So, is there anything else, like any other dimension that any of you would want to add with what we have discussed for the diversity aspect of it?
I would like to
Yeah,
add something.
Yeah. Yes, Ritu.
I would like to add something over here. So I have been responsible to setting up, our engineering teams and doing more lot of recruiting in past few years. When we talk about diversity, we are not only always talking about the gender diversity. We set the goals that we need to have 25% or 30% of the workforce more of diverse candidates. However, when the messaging is done top to bottom, somewhere the purpose gets dissolved and everything boils down to you talk to people at ground level. All that they talk about is we need female candidates. So the way messaging is being done also needs to be more understood it into the right manner, that it is not only the gender thing we are looking out for. We are looking out for people from different backgrounds, how we can train them, how or what sort of values that they bring in the kind of work that we are doing. All of those different aspects need to be considered. But honestly, what I have seen is when you go actually at the ground level, you talk to the recruiters or people at ground level, it all boils down to talk to the team leads. They'll talk in terms of we have these many males and these many females. So gender, I don't know how it could be an unconscious bias that people have, but as soon as it comes to diversity, it boils down to gender. I am not a diversity candidate. It takes time for me to explain it to people, and that's what we want to pass on, the message that we need to bring in more diverse talent. It refers to the kind of testing efficiencies that Shuchita brought in, that these are specially able people, but they were able to do a lot of amazing work. For accessibility testing, we hire a team of specially able people who are able to do a lot of amazing testing work in checking out the accessibility of the application in the payment world, which is very crucial. Those are the things that we want to bring more onto the table. But yeah, honestly, at ground level, it boils down to gender all the time. And somewhere I feel the messaging, the communication has to be done in such a manner people understand the significance.
Thanks, Ritu. I think Parinita has also raised hand. Parinita, would you like to add?
So I just concur with everything Shuchita and Ritu said. I just want to make a very important point. While the thoughts, whether it is gender diversity, whether it is bringing the specially abled people, I think a lot, and this is the broader community, and each of us can contribute to it. I think it needs a very strong ecosystem for inclusion. What I have seen is when we raise our hands and we commit to bringing in, people with special abilities into the system, if there is no employee sensitization will be done, or the HR processes, for example, the annual yearly reporting doesn't change, if our moderation process or so-called whatever 5-point system doesn't change, it really doesn't sustain. So I have, in my personal experience, and Ritu, Sucheta, while this is very great initiative, I have seen while diversity also from a gender diversity itself, we are not able to retain people. I have also seen, because of these leakages, because if it is not a well thought through process, you do see while the intent is good, it doesn't become sustainable. So to make it more sustainable, I think all of us as leadership, all of us as the community need to understand, we need to be more sensitive towards this topic, and we need to contribute towards this to make it very successful. Absolutely the right point that was spoken in last couple of minutes.
Valid point, Parinita. I think the leadership and thought process change, I think that will happen eventually. We have some questions from the audience. What are the thoughts on the new mother's role in the company? Is there an ecosystem in companies that support the new mothers? May I know from panel who want to take it? Okay, Parinita.
I raised my hand because I'm personally, doing some aspects on it, and obviously, I think it's in last 1.5 years, it's been a wonderful journey. The way, so most of the companies will have some or the other program for welcoming the returning mothers, or new mothers. I think, again, at the end of the day, it boils to our, the humanitarian ground and how we are sensitive towards embedding them into the system. And I will relate it to the post-pandemic situation. If you actually see, most of us, if we are mothers here, we have taken, like in my days, it was just about 3 months maternity leave, okay? And you come back in the 4th month. Today, it is 6 months, by default. But I have seen, at least the data shows, that most of them have taken a year or a year and a half long gap. And the technology landscape just changes over the period, right? It's 6 months itself is a big change. So how are we enabling that when our returning mothers are coming? We're giving them a platform where they can reskill or upskill themselves. They're not bothered about, so-called, we will start hitting the bench and, the aging will start and all those operational aspects will come into play. Very, very importantly, those programs needs to be there. There has to be a buddy program. There has to be a mentor where, people get that comfort that there is a support mechanism and a support ecosystem. They want me to upskill and kind of perform well. So we have been doing, and especially, at least I would recognize that my leadership from the top has been very, very sensitive about this. We have numerous programs around returning mothers in terms of how we also allow them to start kind of preparing much ahead of time before they actually resume office. Once they resume office, how the HR processes, the operational processes are enabled for them to seamlessly come in and get established, and then pick up the role of their choice. And many times we also have much more platforms created or roles created. Some of the women do not really want to come and get into, a pure complex delivery project, which demands, a number of hours, and we all know how it is when you work in a right shore kind of a model. So having that ability to create certain roles for returning mothers, having a sensitization done in amongst the teams, having them feel welcome, giving them all the opportunities in terms of, reskilling, upskilling, coaching, etc. I think very simple, nothing is rocket science. It's very simple, commonsensical steps that we have to take, and we need to make them establish and give them that opportunity to kind of, pick up the tech skills back again.
Thank you, Parinita. I think we have got hand raised from other panels also. We'd like to know if they would want to add something. Shubha, can we hear from you?
Yes, I think
We'll do it
Parinita did, touch up a lot of things about it. We have been dealing with, after pandemic, it has been a lot of improvement for, mothers, to be or the, a recent mother. So they take up a job, which is, very convenient to their personal needs, right? It could be the, work, our structure. It could be, based on how, your individual, baby is, sleeping times and other things. That's how they pick up their, jobs also. So there is facility for that. There is a facility of working with, different services group. So you can work with the team which works with, Vietnam time. You can work with the team which works with, the China or Singapore and other area, based timings and other things. You can pick up a lighter job. You can pick up, the skills that you want to do along with the job that you are doing. And then you can also have those mentors and everything, and then, grow along with them in that particular, group, or you can also look at different things. So, a lot of facilities available now in the organization to actually for a mother to come back and stand on it. I think it's the step that the person has to take and, just go out of their comfort zone, not hit the, glass ceiling, but do a little bit of effort from their side, but the opportunities are very huge. the area of help that is getting is also very broader than what we had. I'm sure Parinita can relate it. We just had 3 months and we were all back, and then we were put into projects to work and technically highly skilled, working for hours, parallelly manage the kid at home, give the attention, make sure that the kid needs everything. So we had that tough times. Now I see a lot of flexibility and I know reasonably where we can manage both these things.
Thank you, Shubha. As we are doing roundtable, we'll ask Seema to add points. Thank you.
Thank you, Harpreet. Yeah, I totally agree with what Parinita and Shubha talked about new mothers and coming in. What I wanted to add is it's not just about the coming in or upskilling and the entry into and coming back. A child is not, a child doesn't need attention only when they are 3 months, 6 months, or a year. This is a long-term investment. We are talking about many years until they grow up. You're still mothers to them. And I think this is where it's not just about diversity, it's part of the inclusion as well. Supporting the mothers, not just at the entry point to come in, but also at the point where they need flexible working hours, look after a child who is sick, or drop to school, go to school to see some of their performances. These are the things that they need help, support from organizations as well. So it's not just a short term, let's allow them, new mothers, to come in, but I think it's much more longer policies that need to be in place.
Yeah,
Thank you, Seema. Yeah, I think we'll take one more. Shubha has also raised hand. Shuchita, I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I think before we take next.
You are muted.
Shuchita, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I think we can just pass because you are running short of time, and I think a lot of views have already been expressed on the topic. But I completely agree with this. I think basically, the assimilation plan needs to be put in place for women who are returning from maternity leave. I did mention it to somebody very senior who was owning the DNI agenda at NASCOM as well. I told them the 6 months maternity leave, and for anybody who's working in the IT world, when they come back from leave, by the time they find their feet, in the organization, it's 8 or 9 months. The entire digital technology landscape can change overnight. That's a very long time for someone not to be working. So I think I completely agree with pretty much every point that Parinita brought up. And we did run a program like this in one of the organizations I was associated with earlier, where we looked at an assimilation for women when they got back from leave. Where we put them through an upskilling program, etc., and all of that. By the time, and sort of got them back into the flow. Because if you don't do that, that is really, this is really called the broken run, by some organizations, because that is when women start dropping off the workforce. So it is called the broken middle run. So, you will see that the diversity percentages drastically drop in many organizations when you start looking at them across levels, and this is where that happens. So I think doing all of those things that Parinita mentioned, I think will help that and fix that to a certain extent.
Yeah, great points, panel. I think across touch based on different HR policies and what the organization is trying to do, and also a change in the women's mindset. I think there are different essence also that needs to be added at this point of time. British, I know you're very enthusiastic about the DNI part of it. British, would you want to come online as in talk and ask your question? I also know Swapna had raised her hand. We'll come back to you, Swapna.
Hi, excellent discussion, ladies. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Prajesh, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so, a lot of conversation is happening around gender diversity, which is good. And the only thing that bothers me at this point in time is why are we not diversifying these discussions or taking up more from the socioeconomic aspect as well? Now, the reason why I'm asking this question, or rather the reason for my curiosity, is because I will be talking about sustainability later in the day and tying it up to testing. But then I would like to understand from the panelists, how are some of these initiatives connected with the global sustainability initiatives?
Brish, I've just shared a
Thank you.
HPR paper with you on the chat group, which basically talks about gender equality and sustainability. So if you look at the UN Sustainability Development Goals, goal number 5 is gender equality. So what really the United Nations says is that you cannot build a truly sustainable future for the world without achieving gender equality. And all of us, whatever we are talking about it, we are all doing that little bit to contribute in the large sea and ocean, sort of ocean of effort that is required to build gender sustainability. A lot of things that you spoke about the socioeconomic impact, but the fact that gender equality does not exist to the extent that we would like it to exist is really an outcome of socioeconomics as well. The context or in the context, the environment in which women are brought up in different countries, in different cultures, etc. All of that, the impact of that is the unequal gender balance. I hope I've answered your question, because if I speak more than this, we'll basically run out of time.
Yeah, Parinita.
Thank you so much, Shuchita.
Yeah, you can give your thoughts on that.
No, I couldn't raise my hand down, but I think good point, and I personally will be reading the PDF that is being shared. But I totally agree to whether it is human, social, economic, environmental, whatever are the 4 components of our sustainability, in some way or other, the whole gender diversity or the overall diversity, whether it is people with disabilities, whether it is about, bringing the gender equality, all of them have an impact, whether it is, in terms of healthcare, in terms of, other areas. It is very important that, and to be very frank, I think, at least, as I said, I'm 27 years into in the industry. I think this is the time where we are still picking up, we're talking, and I really want to talk to this audience that we are still talking about this subject, because this subject is still have to be told and have to be made aware of. I don't think this has become part of our DNA. I don't think this has become part of our, the normal thought process. So why do we do so many unconscious bias training? Why do we have to speak about? Why do we even need to have, as Ritu said, why do we talk about DNI targets, and then it results into whether it is gender or it is, persons with special ability? Because it is not understood in the industry. I think it will take, and for us, because I think India, because of the way we are culturally set up, it will take another generation, 2 generation for us to kind of, stop these discussions and panels around this topic and maybe move on to something else, because then we will not need it anymore. And everybody will be equally enabled with this information. And it is just your mindset that will never have to have such discussion. So great point, and all the best for your discussion later today afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Seema, just 1 minute. I see your raise hand, even Ritu, but just one thing. I had a question about community balancing out different kind of diversities. All the communities are not, no community is gender biased, right? So every community is looking at the technologists and, the work that is being done. And at the end of the day, you are being, hired and paid for your skill and not for the gender. Of course, there are different challenges that the genders are facing. We are definitely not focusing on what the gender initiatives are to be, but like Shuchita said, like Parinita said, that's a major focus, and that's when we have a lot of questions coming on why women are facing it. It's not a panel discussion to say there is a gender inequality or anything like that, but yeah, when we talk about communities, right, there is no gender bias anywhere there. So communities work to bring like-minded people and kind of like also entertain the networking and the learnings. So gender does not come under that. So probably, yeah, it's about the equality that every person gets and the inclusiveness that, everybody is involved. So yeah, that's the thing about, community part of it. Probably, Swapna, I think you had a couple of more questions. So
no, I have only one question. I have framed it into single question because everything was covered by every panel here. Just my thing is that I have been attending many sessions on this community building, whatever we say, but we have more words and discussions. It can be women biased or whatever it is, can be child policies. I am speaking as in our country, how far we have the policies. We are having only words and discussions. I have been attending many international conferences. My point is, as an individual, how much time we are contributing. take for a year or something, right? I'm not saying that it should be like women or men or child thing, but in as an IT industry, what is the community work we are doing? That is my point here, because I have never seen the discussions are going on. We are diversifying that it is women, men, but where is the community we are doing it? And we never speak about the statistics. It's only about the discussions and the like where exactly because I have literally attended many conferences, but we don't have one statistics on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
we heard you. Anybody wants to take that?
I didn't get the specific questions. Was the question that we talk a lot about it and nothing is actually translating into action? Is that what the question is?
Chitra, the question is that as a community where we are standing, it can be in IT industry or anything. What is the community work we are dedicating?
Community, you mean outside organizations, or you basically are referring to just the group or the cohorts?
Group of the organizations, or it can be an individual contribution.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
yeah.
So I think, Swapna, there is still a lot of work to do. I have mentioned that earlier as well. Because while we are seeing a healthier gender balance at the entry levels in most organizations, there are more and more women engineers entering the workforce, but they don't stick around for various reasons. And I think a lot of those reasons have been discussed in our panel discussions just now. And there's some great points that have been raised on why that happens. So I think there is definitely a lot of work, especially for women in leadership or women in technology or
Suchitra,
tech.
it can be men or women. I'm not diversifying the topic here.
Right.
As a whole community, I'm speaking. Like, if you take any other countries, they have some contribution of the community work. It can be IT or testers, whatever it is. But my feeling is that we are not like, there's no continuous graph here. Like, for example, today I said to my sister or brother that these are the things where these factors are there from many years, but as an individual, as many years we are taking it, but on which platform we are, what is the percentage we have implemented? Because today I say that one, like a fresher can come into the tester community, I say that, see, look, brother or sister, these are there from many ages, from 81, 85, 86, still we have got these solutions, right? But these solutions as a community where we are standing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand your question. Somebody else
Yeah.
can respond.
I'm not sure about the statistics. However, I would like to add, though a lot of things are happening, still there is a long way to go. But when we talk to the new generations, even if I talk about my teenager children or the people coming out fresh from the college or with 2-3 years of experience, they are not facing the bias, and this is happening probably because of the efforts that are being done. Talk to children these days, they don't even understand the difference between the boy or the girl. I mean, I see that at home. People, the newer generation, maybe because we have brought them up in such a manner, and somewhere it is reflecting in the society as well. I'm not talking about all the areas, socioeconomic different status and all, but these days at least we see it, and that is probably the result of all these efforts that are being taken.
Yeah, because sometimes still I see as an individual, right? Still I stayed to tell that I got periods. Still I say that I got fever, I'm not well. So still I'm finding, like, as a human, I understand 90% I can openly say to this fall, but sometimes I need to add as per the individual to whom I am reporting, right? So I want to contribute that how well we can work on those things. Like, say that, okay, openly I can say, come on, today I have the periods, right? There's no stigma in hiding that. I have some cramping happening on my body. It can be boy or girl, right? Where we can say that openly. Even they do have some issues like physical issues. Those things I think we need to work upon.
So I just want to add one point. Okay. So who is stopping us to say that? See, I think it is a lot many times our own apprehension which makes us stop this. Okay. And I can assure you, when I was 25, I used to say that in a community. It is more to do with, and it is all about, again, think about it. It's all the way we have been brought up. And I absolutely agree to Ritu. Today's kids do not feel they do not have a second thought, speaking in a bigger community, saying that, oh, I cannot go to the water park because I'm in periods today. I mean, no shame, it's not about, and I think it is just about the cultural, the way we are. And this is where the whole sustainability agenda, the whole socio-economy, the education, the more we are educated, the more we have these opportunities, the more we are becoming vocal, the more we have the courage, is going to, so none of the efforts or initiatives can be enough for us to change this cultural aspect or behavioral. And it is also very, very individual specific, right?
Right.
It's not about that we are see, first thing we need to understand, and again, sorry for the men if I'm again going back to gender, because this is the reason we kind of get into the gender diversity. But nobody pulls us to offices to kind of make us work there. We all want to do great, we all want to compete, we all have greater aspirations to grow further in our career and influence. And I think that is what we are trying to do. As you move up, you are having a greater impact, greater span of influence. I think each one of us have to do this little bit of education to us, to self, to make this change happen. None of the company initiatives, CSR activities or HR policies or etc. will change this. We individually have to first change our mindset and then start changing the people around us.
Right, Parinita. It's the individual who need to push. That is my question. How far we are there? That's it. Thank you.
It will evolve.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. In the interest of time, we'll just do a quick round of summarization of whatever we have discussed in the roundtable fashion. Starting with Seema, I think you wanted to speak on some of the previous ones. So we'll start with you today. Summarization of some of the discussions that we had since today.
Thank you. So, we talk a lot about women and gender bias and diversity only in terms of women, but that was not the intention. That's because historically, women have been fighting for their space in tech or outside of tech. And because of that, we are so focused on diversity means women. It's not true anymore. We've come a long way, but there's a lot more to be done. In recent times, of course, diversity has started to mean more than just women. We don't have just gender as men and women anymore. It's much wider than that. And in terms of diversity, we're talking about neurodiversity, like Shuchita mentioned. We're talking about disabilities. It could be sex, religion, cultural differences, nationality differences. There's a lot of things that will come into diversity. And yes, organizations are starting to put policies and efforts into place to make it an inclusive place. But it's also up to us as individuals to raise the bar and make this awareness more common, spread the word around, and speak up when we need to.
Thank you, Seema, for putting together the points. Can we request Shubha if you would want to add something?
Yes, sure. I think we always, tend to talk about gender when it comes to diversity. So keeping that aside, keeping the topic as growing big, I think it is three things, whoever it is, as everybody is saying, it's the individual and other things, three things. First is the self-awareness is what I believe. The second thing is the self-management. And the third thing is the self-development. Self-development is when you actually up skills and do things. If you have these three things and you have your individuality and you come out of it and you are open, and there is no question about that, we need diversity inclusion. Even the Gartner says, the entire world says how the performance improves, entire world says how the innovation improves, entire world says everything. Now, if I have these three things, three yes that I'm talking about, and going further for it, I don't think we will have to talk about anything gender specific going further. The millennials have changed. I mean, they are never the thought that what I or the panel members have here with the experience. They come up with a totally different thought process. They are very clear on their thoughts. They have clarity on everything. They are open on everything. They are not hesitant on claiming anything. They are not hesitant on doing anything. So I think we should adopt from them. We should adopt from them and learn them, and then I'm sure we will make a lot of difference.
Agree. We have to unlearn and learn.
Yes.
Can I request Ritu to go next?
I'll just keep a single sentence over here. Change begins with us. we need to change and, show the world that that's how it works. It's not only about the numbers or targets or anything. Talk about the value. Even when we have targets, let's not get unconsciously biased and, make it more number specific.
At least it's the first step that we are taking. Thank you, Ritu. Parinita, can I request you to go next?
I think awesome stuff is already covered. I don't think I need to repeat. I'll just re-concur with what Ritu said. Every time you take a decision, think through it. Think if there is any bias that is playing in your mind, whether it is in any kind of the diversity, and then you take the position. I think once you train your mind, it's as simple as, when we are growing up, our parents make us brush every single day, and then it becomes a natural thing, right? It's just second to your natural habit. You wake up and you brush your teeth. It's as simple as that. Train your mind to get over the biasness. Once we are in a position to being aware of the biasness and taking care of that, I think the whole diversity agenda, whether it is from gender or non-gender, I think everything will fall in place. We just need to train. Thank you, Harpreet.
Thank you, Parinita. Shuchita, can you summarize?
Well, I think it has been summarized very well. But yes, one thing is, the change begins with you. That is something that I would definitely like to mention. And be aware of your biases, your unconscious biases. All of us carry biases. All of us have a tendency to start stereotyping when we think of men, women, people with, who identify with different genders, any of that. It is not easy for us to accept diversity. Recognize that, educate yourself, read about it, talk to people. Do not assume anything about any of the diverse groups without actually talking to them, because that is another big issue. People just assume that, oh, men are like this and women are like this. It doesn't always work that way. So refrain from stereotyping, understand your biases. Change is hard, recognize that, but try and make that happen. That is where I'll close.
Thank you so much, Suchita. And on this note, I would like to thank entire panel for being so supportive with the discussions and the questions that we have. And I'm sure each one in the audience had something to take away today. Thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. Moving on to the